Hi, hello, this is Jules the Human here, and welcome to the JulesTheHuman Anime Hour. I'm one of your hosts, Jules the Human, and every week we go out into the world and watch a little bit of anime, and then we come back here and talk about it. And this week we are talking about episode 5 through 8 of Trigun Stampede. I'm super excited to continue going into this world and learning so much more. But next week is the last time that we're going to be talking about Trigun. We're going to finish off the first season, give our thoughts, put it on our board, and we're going to be picking a brand new anime from one of these in the chest currently. There's so many to pick from, so many anime there, and I'm super excited to dive into the next one next week. And then after we put it on Trigun Stampede, we rate it and we put it on our new board for season 2. It's looking a little lonely. They're going to add one more anime to that.
Good so far.
Looking great. Started off great. And I don't go on these anime journeys alone. I'm with my co-host Matt Galley. Matt, how are you doing?
I'm good. Happy New Year. Happy New Year
Happy New
everybody
Year.
listening. Yeah, ringing in 2024 on a
Yeah.
much better note with the continuation of this show. I've been I'm really impressed with how much the show has done in the amount of time that we've been watching it. It's really coming together to be something cool.
I don't know if you're talking about JulesTheHuman Anime Hour or Trigun, but yes.
Oh yeah. I mean, hey, two things can be true at the same time,
sure.
right? but no, yeah, I really didn't think that this show was gonna be able to like capture me in the way that it has, like when we picked it out of the chest. I thought it was just kind of gonna be, pretty run of the mill, bog standard. But I mean, at least for me, I feel like it just does a lot of things with a unique like flavor, like a unique little twist and flair, where even though I kind of generally knew where things were going, I was like, there were definitely some reveals that had me just little gobsmacked.
Especially in these 4 episodes. But I do got to say, on what you're saying, there was a point and I'll talk about it when it happens. There is a point somewhere in these 4 episodes where I was like, I'm on the fence. It's probably the most on the fence that I've been in the anime so far, where I'm like, they're kind of losing the plot for me a little bit, but we can get to talking about that. But let's get into episode 5, Child of Blessing. If you haven't seen the first 4 episodes, we talk about it in the last episode. You can watch on YouTube, on Spotify. We already talked about 1 through 4. Now we're going to be talking about episode 5, Child of Blessing. What happens in episode 5?
We get an opening for the episode being introduced to the family of a religious cult. Then we cut to Roberto, Meryl, Vash, and Nicholas all making their way east until they spot the rotting carcass of a creature, which makes them pause for a second. Vash begins to wander into a nearby town with everybody following behind. And a monstrous creature, who we come to learn is the child from the cold opening, ambushes Vash. Vash repeatedly attempts to non-violently take down Rolo, appealing to the person he once was. However, Nicholas would deliver a coup de grace, executing Rolo the second he seemed to make a breakthrough. Vash and Nicholas argue over the morally correct way to have handled the situation.
So this is interesting because I love, again, gonna mention it, the introduction of the radio as the narrator, but indirect narrator, where things are happening and they're listening. They're like, I don't want to hear that, but here's this other thing. When the radio comments about when the 2 angels descend, we will be led to the land of God. And I was like, ooh, some more religious aspect, but not so much. But I was like, oh, this adds another layer to the people, the world, what's going on outside of our main story. We hear about missionary Michael and priest William. Who are they? We're going to find out by the end of these 4, but it had more of a
we
religious
have
focus.
already seen, actually. We just didn't get their name.
Sure. And you wouldn't in the situation. I'm glad they didn't do like a whole I'm so and so, and this is why I'm here.
Exactly.
So it's letting us connect the dots in time with the anime going on, and I really like that. Another interesting fact about this episode, or something that happened, was that they mentioned a town running on wind power and how that's ancient or that's old technology or
Yeah,
something like that.
Nicholas seemed completely gobsmacked by it, which initially was like, this guy doesn't know about wind power, but then the later episodes recontextualize why he wouldn't have known about it,
hmm Which
which
I'm still
again I really like.
which I'm still sort of in the dark of, and I've hopefully discussed that about timelines and all that stuff, which is
Sure,
kind of
yeah.
because I'm sure they're holding on to some stuff still. But the whole wind power thing, we find this big dude, which I did not. I mean, I kind of thought was going to be Rolo, but
Yeah, right?
I didn't
Because
really
it's the
think.
only person introduced, but, like, you're racking your brain on, like, how that could happen, but
Mhm.
it's like, it's like, obviously, it is him in a
Can,
to a certain degree, you know?
sure. Can we talk about how cool some of these antagonists or characters are? I don't think we've like really talked about how just all of them are super similar but also different. Like
Mhm.
they come from the same cloth, they're cut from the same cloth, but there are variations to them. Like this
Yeah.
guy has big
It's all
guns,
these, like,
but
yeah, wasteland, like, scrapyard, like, effects, but then you get this one with, just with that, like, the face shield or whatever that's going
yeah.
on there that just adds this, like, little tiny sci-fi twist on it. Um, it's a really cool design, honestly. Really intimidating.
Yeah, very intimidating. Yeah, with all the muscles and the big guns and stuff, and how he blew out air. Some of those are just air, I
Air
guess, just to
cannons or
air
something.
cannons. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's pretty cool. That's something you don't see a whole lot. But Rolo is the kid from the beginning. We find out he's sick, and the doctor is there for Rolo, and they end up doing some experiments on Rolo. He gets um he ages fast. So apparently with this serum, whatever experiments that they're putting on them, they age kind of fast
Yeah,
or
it, like, reconstructs cells to be stronger, and it, speeds up metabolism, and I guess it would be that process being sped up to an insane degree that causes this, amount of aging years in the matter of, like, days, it
so
kinda seems.
that happens to Wolfwood later. Spoiler alert. That
Yes.
happens to Wolfwood later. But does that how does that affect the brain though? Because we see an older Wolfwood,
Mhm.
we see an older kid, but this is seemingly maybe a week or two, or I don't know how long. But like, are they still mind of a child or does that change at all? Because that's firstly like what I went to. I was like, is he still a kid? Is that why he's still trying to reach him there because he's still that kid that didn't.
I think so. Like, I that's what, the show kind of
So is
I mean,
Wolfwood still a
that's like
kid?
yeah, again, that's why I think it kinda makes sense that, he didn't know about wind power if, plants are kind of like, if he comes from, which he does, a town that has its own plant that provides, power because he comes from Hopeland Orphanage. Um, so there are no windmills there and such, and we haven't seen any windmills up to this point. So,
No.
I mean,
I
it
don't know if they're
is
gonna really
kind of
dive
getting
into it.
loosey goosey. It
Sure.
can be loose, but I do think that it kind of makes sense that he has almost a like the whole deal, again, spoiler alert, with him talking to Vash and Vash trying to like appeal to him, but him just being kind of like no, you're just supposed to kill the bad guys. Like that's kind of like this attitude that he keeps giving off. It's
Sure.
to me like kind of a child
Childish.
like, yeah, mindset to have.
Mm.
Um
There's no nuance to it. It's
yes.
kill the bad guy, big gun.
Yeah.
So then I would say, yeah, okay. So they do still not as aged as what they would look in the mind, I suppose. So we see Wolfwood, he drank some liquid that we don't know about just yet. He did a piercing shot, which is pretty baller. And we find out it is Rolo, kills Rolo, and we find out Wolfwood is a creation of the Doctor, and Nicholas Wolfwood is the Punisher. Marvel crossover? No. It's really cool. I am digging it. I up until this point, I'm like, let's go. Let's continue the monster of the week thing. Big old monster guy. What's his story? Still non-changing in the protagonist's idea of helping. He still wants to help. I don't understand how he knew it was Rolo. That kind of was like, okay, maybe whatever. He's like, I'm back to help you. I'm back to save you. And it's like, how did you know it was the kid? Come on. But that part aside, it was a good episode. Really enjoyed it. Episode 6, Once Upon a Time in Hopeland. Things get kind of crazy. So we got a lot to go on this one. Episode 6, what happened?
The opening showcases Nicholas withstanding a burst of rounds from a machine gun before taking a stimulant to recover and executing his opponent. Roberto decides it's time for he and Meryl to depart, taking Vash and Nicholas to a sand steamer depot to be brought to July City across the Great Desert. Things quickly go awry as an assassin shows up attempting to kill Vash. Nicholas identifies this person as someone whom he met in an orphanage, Livio. Meryl convinces Roberto to pursue Vash and Nicholas and are swept up by a gang following the stand steamer. And jumping timelines, the show provides us a sequence showing Nicholas and Livio's relationship develop, and then going on to show Nicholas be accepted into a program where he would be experimented on in order to become an assassin for this religious cult. With superiors in pursuit of the sand steamer as well, they attempt to push Nicholas to his very limits in order to break his will and get him to submit to the will of the cult. There's a lot of things going on.
There is a lot. So we've first thing I noticed was Wolfwood being able to survive the gunshots, and later on we know why. And that was the first thing I was like, wait, what? What's happening? What's going on? This is going to be different. The introduction of a sand steamer, which was really cool. I can tell you in this episode is where it got a little much for me. Because I never completely got off the train. I was kind of hanging off the edge. I was like, there's a lot of cool stuff, a lot of cool characters. Introduction of Livio, the assassin that we find out more. We get some backstory on him, what's going on with him and Wolfwood. But I was like, how is this connecting to our main story? And I just wanted Vash to go to Nye. And I'm like, where's that? And now we've kind of taken this little detour, and it was just a little bit, and all these other people came, and I was kind of confused a little bit, but there's just a lot going on in this episode. I don't know. How did you feel watching this one? Because
I mean, watching this one off the back of watching the last one, I feel like it's maybe the execution is a little muddy, but I think it's an excellent like way of putting like in the last episode, you know, Vash is standing there telling Nicholas, you can't be the one to decide who should live and who should die. And we have seen him consistent with his own, this concept of like, I'm not the one that should decide if people live or die. I should just be helping people. That seems to be the person that Vash just is. So here we get they get the inverse of roles, where in the last episode, it was Vash trying to reach out to Rolo, but Nicholas stepped in and, you know, kind of provided the without Nicholas stepping in, we wouldn't have this conflict of ideals going on. So now that that door has been opened, it's the introduction of Livio is a way to showcase like, hey, this is what Vash is going through. He just cares about everybody, but you care about somebody. But that's going to make this decision of how to handle what's going on here very much difficult. If he maintains his worldview that like monsters should just die, and he says at one point, I'm pretty sure that Livio's turned into a monster, or he says he monster. Especially with the concept that we get introduced to, where because Nicholas is like S+ compatibility, this is why he was able to maintain free will after undergoing that program. But S pluses are very rare, as the Dr. William, Priest William, whatever says. And
Okay,
I just think it's really, it's giving a little bit of nuance to like that moral conflict that's going on, showing.
between the two, and because they are, you know, two opposites,
Yes,
very much together. One in the past episode dealing with one situation on this side, and then now on this side, and it's like, well, they got to come together and figure it out because they're together now.
exactly. But Vash is more than ready. In fact, if it wasn't for Vash, now that, again, the spoiler alert, Vash in the next episode's hard stops Nicholas from executing Livio. So we get the reversal of, in that moment, Nicholas did a coup de grace on the person that he was trying to reaching out to, but
Mhm.
here Nicholas is just ready to execute the person that he cares about most. But Vash stops him from doing that and reminds him, like, break through to him somehow. There's got to be something. And if it
Mhm.
wasn't for that, it wouldn't. I mean, he still ends up
It ends,
dying.
yeah,
He still
yeah.
ends up dying, but you get that one moment of, seeing him, recognize Nicholas in his
Sure.
eyes. You get that one moment, and I think that without that, Nicholas would be carrying such a heavy burden that he didn't need to.
So I'm still, I guess the more confusing parts for me, we get the whole flashback stuff, which is nice. Like the flashback style change look great. Wasn't confused about that. I was like, oh, okay, this is great flashback scenes, stylized differently. Love that thought. Is this, before I get into what I was going to say, is this too late? We always get some kind of flashback. Now that we've been seeing more anime in a shorter amount of time, we get, we get to talk about the way the episode arcs go, or how the story arcs go. Would it be better if they put this here, this there? Is this a good time for them to do that flashback? Because I was fine with it, because sometimes I'm not, where I'm like,
No,
oh,
yeah.
that could have gone earlier. But this is a great time to put this, especially with the introduction of Olivia.
Yes, I think it was a good time for them to place that, but if there's one thing that I guess I would want to restructure, is kind of providing some sort of a similar stylized background to when Nash and Nye might have had more of a close brotherly bond before it
Hmm.
is whatever before um
And that could be
kind of,
coming.
yeah, it could be coming, but I would want to have probably seen that a little bit before this, or closer to it. And also showcasing Vash and Nye's like brotherly bond that they had before whatever it was that led Nye to tricking Vash into providing him what he needed for Nye's plans to go through. Because
Hmm.
obviously Vash
Vash.
wouldn't have helped him do what he did if he had known the outcome.
Mhm.
So I think that at this point I would have wanted that reveal to have happened by episode 8, and that's the only thing that I would say. I
Mhm.
think that Nicholas and Livio's backstory thing is fine here where it is, but again, just want Vash and Nye's bond to be a little bit more built up and a little bit more shown, not just talked about. Because
Mhm.
Nash seems to, I keep saying Nash, Vash seems to care about Nye a lot,
Mhm.
but other
Why?
than the fact that Rem took care of the both of them and doted on them at the end of this set of episodes, we really don't know why. Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Other than the fact that they're twins.
Mhm. We get information about the child of blessing gets picked to be experimented on, which is some sort of religious ploy to get these superhumans to to get experimented on, and they are picked from the orphanage to take on the drug that strengthens their body. I was like, this hit me hard, because whenever, I think it's in this flashback, right? In the around this scene here, where this dude, Blue Summers, I think is what they're calling him so far.
Uh-huh.
Don't know what this blue haired guy is. Blue Summers, I
I
think, is
forgot
what
to
I
write his
got.
name down.
But the Eye of Michael is apparently the him or the whole group. I'm not too sure. But when Nicholas tries to jump out the window,
Oh my god. He
bro,
gets twisted and
the
contorted.
the way he was like about to touch the glass and the way the hand like flipped back or whatever, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that
Yeah.
was crazy. That was so good.
That caught me off guard for sure. I thought it was like, oh, this is how he got away. Oh.
No, it's so crazy. He got contorted pretty crazy. So we find out that Blue Summers has some sort of
Oh,
telekinesis.
crazy. Great.
Um, Priest William, as they had named him before, is the doctor that we've seen in the previous episodes. The whole fight scene with Livio at the end, and throughout this whole episode, this anime is very action packed, but this episode in particular, I loved how when they're on the ground, when they're fighting rough, it's the camera goes slow or like it's just slow action movements, but it gives you that big impact feel. It
Yeah,
feels
the
like whenever
impact
you're
frames
playing
are really good.
yeah, it feels like when you're playing like one of the Batman Arkham games or Spider-Man or something, when you get that little slow, boom, and you hit
Yeah.
that big hit. That's how the anime felt in this fight, particularly for me, because they're on the ground, they're moving kind of slow motion, boom, hit, move, hit shots, and I'm like, oh, this gives me that like effect. Like there's just this effect that it gives you, and it's just
Yep.
great in a fight.
And I do think it go I didn't have my animation eye on as much this time. I
Where'd you
was
put
just
that?
kind of I was just kind of enjoying the show as it was being presented to me, but I really do think that it also goes with what I was talking about last time and how they are really good at handling swapping the foreground and the background between being animated on ones and twos depending on how the action is flowing.
So
Um,
good.
it allows for those more punchy impact frames to be more exaggerated
Mhm.
and such, which yeah, it like you said, the Batman Arkham games are a great way to bring it, are a great comparison point to make. When Vash is fighting everybody, it just seems like all he's doing is hitting like counter. He's just like doing
Mhm.
counter
Yeah.
move, like slip and knockout, just like
Mhm.
he's not actually doing any attacks.
Mhm.
Even when he was about to, in the next episode, like wade through a bunch of people to fight, he's just like holding his pistol in a in like a baton
Yeah, he had it
style.
backwards.
Yeah,
It's like,
it's
what are
great.
you doing?"
So
It's
I
so
love
cool.
how much emotion and character is put into the fight sequences. They don't feel like they're just repeating a bunch of sets of, animations that they've already planned out.
Sure, and you saying that, I didn't even think about, like, how each person is different in the way we fight. We see everybody else pretty much have hands throughout this, show so far, and they all have different fighting styles, and you could tell who's who, and it's not like they put, like, a blanket, "Hit this is how they're gonna fight." They're showing you how the character that is fighting, how they
Mhm.
would fight, and the differences in that, and it's really awesome. Um, the bad lads gang come out. So the confusing part for me here was, were they coming here because they knew there was a plant on board? Were they coming here for Vash? Is Nicholas Wolfwood on their side but not anymore because the doctor seemed to want
So
him?
to me, it just seemed like they were like I think Mad Max, they're just a gang that wanders around and they see a big old slow moving cruiser
Sure.
land ship, and they're just like, we're just gonna go raid that and rob all the people on board that are you know enjoying their leisure cruise across the desert.
Were they connected to that Blue Summers guy?
I don't think so, but maybe, like,
Yeah, that's
but
kinda why I was confused
it
because they
doesn't
were
seem
there.
like they are. It just seems like, the perfect storm, so to speak.
Yeah, okay. Um, so yeah, it all sort of culminates in this next episode, episode 7, Wolfwood. What happens in episode 7?
Excuse me. In episode 7, we oh, where'd my episode 7. With things going from bad to worse, Nicholas resolves that he must kill Livio. Vash wades through the bandits and catches up to Meryl and Roberto, and returns to Nicholas just in the nick of time to stop his killing blow on Livio. Nicholas then attempting to break through to Livio. Livio's memories all come back to him at once, then shooting himself and falling off the sand steamer. The steamer's large gun begins to activate and rotates to aim at Hopeland Orphanage. Vash, Nicholas, and Meryl all work together to stop the gun from firing at Hopeland and from ramming into the city itself, with everyone discovering Vash to bear similar markings that the plants bear. Bum, bum.
What? We're all plants in the end.
Maybe they were all plants
Mm,
all along.
Maybe the Stampede's
friends
plants
were the plants we made along the
way. So it's kind of a perfect story. See, this is why I think that they were all together, was because they're ramming into Hopeland Orphanage, ultimately having Wolfwood become on their side, on the doctor's side, or something like that. Like, what?
Yeah, what's the blue-haired guy's name again?
Blue Summers.
So Blue Summers wants to, like, first of all, purposefully sent purposely sent Livio as the assassin, knowing that Nicholas and Vash are together. He purposely sent Livio there to attack Vash in order to put Nicholas in a position where he would have to kill Livio in order to try to, like, break him psychologically. And when that doesn't seem to be something that, like, it's like, oh, he might actually save him. So he breaks the part of the sandcrawler in order to throw it off track towards Nicholas's orphanage. So it's like, if breaking him via killing his brother doesn't work, I'm gonna destroy the orphanage that he lived at and the city that he lived in, and maybe even both of those things happen, and then he's sure to become whatever the cult wants him to do, because he's S plus, so he has free will. So we can't, for some reason, between now and the last time we saw, like, him in the furthest part of Nicholas's backstory, he's gone rogue or something. So they're trying to get him to, like, come back without, like, forcing him.
And I still want to see how he got away. There's a couple things that I still want to see, because for all intents and purposes, we saw homie that has telekinetic powers own him immensely. Just stop. You're not going anywhere. You're ours, whatever. And then now we know him as to have escaped with a big gun. Where'd that come from? How did that happen? But I guess we don't have to see it, but it would be nice, because, like, how does he do that? And why do they want him so bad? I guess that's my hang up. It's like, why do they want him so bad? What does he have? Is it just the S plus gene or whatever that they can somehow harness that and multiply that or something? Or do they even want it?
Maybe.
Or is he more powerful than everybody else? Or does he have did he just steal a bunch of that serum stuff and he just has a bunch of it and they just want that back? Like, what are their thing? And I think all those questions are taking me away from the plot that's happening. And all this is just nitpicky. I still really enjoy the show. It's all really great. But in these 3 episodes, I was just kind of like, where are we going? Why are we getting a bunch of story about Wolfwood, about him being turned into the perfect believer, how he has this backstory on Livio, which is really cool, and where he came from. But where does it play out? And I really hope that it has some sort of meaning to it in the next 4 episodes. Otherwise, we just got a really cool character.
See, that's exactly where I'm at, and that's where at the start of the earlier I was saying that this is really looking to, like, kind of go one way or the other. But from where we're at up to the point right now, I'm really enjoying it, is because there's a lot of open-ended questions where, if in the next 4 episodes some of those questions don't get resolved, wrapped up, or at least, like,
touched on,
partially answered, addressed if some of the questions that have been brought up don't get addressed, then I'm going to be very upset. But if everything presented so far at least plays out for some reason in the next 4 episodes, I feel like I'm gonna have a great time with the next 4 episodes.
We find out that the ship was actually a spaceship prior, or parts of a spaceship in it, and we see Meryl have sort of this defying moment here in her character, how she defies Roberto on saying, because they are just reporters, they were taking pictures of those guys earlier,
Mm-hmm.
and they still have a story to write. And how does this play into it? I have no clue, but I'm ready for it to be something. Or if they're just characters to tag along, that's fine too. But like, I want them to be working for somebody bad. I want them to be working for. Have they seen the doctor? Have they seen the some of the bad guys? Maybe they're like, oh, it's our boss. Oh my god, wait, he's this bad guy. You know what I mean? Like, it turns out it's somebody we already know that they're working for or something. Or I don't know. These are cool characters, but we see Meryl have a defining moment in her character where she's like, no, I want to help people. Maybe that's all it is. Maybe that's all
Well, she
they're there
definitely
for.
has this, like, she even tells, speaks it. She has this lingering guilt over things that happened way back in the rock town. I
Mhm.
forget the name of it. So like, just Roberto's kind of more of this traveled, grizzled, like, he's a bit more dejected, and he constantly reminds her, like, hey, we're not the heroes in this situation, like, that we are just reporters and we're just doing our job. So it's nice to see that, like, she's being treated as a character that has her own, like, motivation and her
Sure.
own flaws, where you could consider her persistence a trait or a flaw, however you want to define it. But it's definitely nice to have her be this, like, a weird, like, not weird, but like a grounded character that's surrounded by these characters that are just larger than life.
Sure. And if that's all they are there for, to bring us back down to earth and have them be the stable, like, talking sense into the audience, like, we're not heroes. What are you doing? Like, what? Then that's cool. I'm okay with that too. If it doesn't end up being anything and them just being tagging along throughout this whole journey and being the normal people, I'm okay with that. I just thought this was a very cool moment for her and saying, like,
Yeah.
no, I do not want to feel this way anymore. And this sucks. And I want to help any way I can. And I could help right now. And I'm going to. And Roberto being like, okay, whatever. All right, whatever. Um, so what I thought it was, because after Roberto helps a little bit, I thought somebody was in the plant. And I was like, okay, somebody was in the plant. Like, this one was special or something. Okay,
Soylent
cool.
Green is people.
Yeah. And then we come to it to be like they are the plants because they have the same pattern. The whole thing's connected. That was a great moment because now, coming so late into this and having that revelation now, is like, oh, we have like so many thoughts about plants now. Like, this plant was just a thing, the MacGuffin that they needed, and it was also just the thing that powered stuff. Now we find out that this is coming from somewhere, and that somehow Vash is connected, somehow Millions Knives is connected.
Mhm.
They're the same. Did they come from the plant? What's happening? So after this episode, I was like, oh my god, this is great. How good of a moment was that for you?
No, that reveal was wholly satisfying. Um, it really, it like makes me think back to, like, all the way back to the first episode where Genora Rock, I think that's the name of the town actually.
Yes.
They were saying, like, hey, when they're walking in to the factory with Vash,
Exactly.
and everybody's like, huh, I wouldn't have pegged you as a plant engineer, and he's like, I know, right? And
Yeah, and they're like,
he just kind of like dusts his shoulder off. But
Mhm.
then because of the next episode too, like it gets recontextualized again, where like it's a really big deal that he's able to do the things that he can do.
Mhm.
In fact, maybe even the only person of his kind that can do what he can do. So it's it just again, it just recontextualized like things all the way back to the first episode, which always is very satisfying when reveals do that, because
Mhm.
that's, to me, that's like what drives a second viewing, is when
Sure.
things like that can be spotted and caught out after you get the reveal the first time through.
Mhm. Kinda like what you were talking about in Promised Neverland, how the couple times through, it's you notice different things, or knowing the ending can recontextualize the beginning and watching it over again. So I definitely get that feeling where if I watch this one over again, I'll be like, oh man, these are knowing this now. I'm like, ah, this is crazy. Like now I can catch all the other dialogue or double meanings that Vash had as well. Because I did remember that point too, where he was talking about there's like, oh, he fixed it for us, and he came by and he just fixed the plant, and they're like, what? Okay, cool. Like it's like, oh, I guess Vash knows about this stuff.
Yeah,
That's something that we know about this
because
character now.
he shows up and he's like, oh look, one's red, and I'm like, what's he gonna do to fix it? Is he gonna open the tank up and put some, some food in,
Yeah.
little plant food? Like, how does he fix it? um but that answers that question in a satisfying way, that in like the universe, I'm able to accept it as it's presented.
Hmm.
It doesn't feel forced or contrived, is what I'm
No,
trying to say.
and I'm cool with the story so far. I know some of it could be a little like the perfect timeline where they talk about it in movies how like, oh, how did he get out of this situation, how did he get not get shot by anybody. Vash amazingly dodges so many bullets and uses his arm to block so many bullets in these past couple episodes. um but it's believable enough for me. It's not so much a perfect timeline where everything goes right. There, it's enough believability, and I'll let you
Yeah.
know if there's a point where I'm just like, okay, how did
Yeah,
that
like
happen?
like
What's going on?
things go right, but not all without a cost, and that's an interesting way of presenting the show. When certain things happen, like when they're trying to keep the cannon from, getting into its full firing position, and they're holding it up, and then Vash's robot arm cracks, and
Hmm.
it starts to like pop and sizzle,
Yeah.
and it's like to yeah, it's like, that just is an interesting way of handling the situation, that and still letting them succeed, but giving him a tax for it,
Sure.
so to speak.
Like rolling an 11. Be
Yeah.
like, okay, you succeed, but
Yeah,
like,
or passing the check, but failing the saving throw that comes with the check.
sure, great. If you don't play in D&D, sorry.
Yeah.
Um so we get some more information going into episode 8, our home. What happens in the last episode we talk about today?
So in episode 8, we see a bit of Vash, Nye, and Rem all enjoying their life pre-crash, and then we see Nye revealing a new bit of info that Vash gave him access codes to the ship, which guilts Vash's conscience, him running out into the desert. He is discovered by a group, saving him and bringing him to another grounded ship. Unsure of what to make of his markings, they are all cautious of Vash at first. However, amidst a potential crisis, Vash shows what he is capable of, communicating with red plants and healing them before their voice goes silent. After recovering data from the black box of Vash and Nye's home ship, Vash is implicated in the destruction, with him running away from everyone at his new home. He again reawakens in his room, seemingly saved once again, and then also we get to see him running into his brother, who seems to have also made his own new family.
Whew.
And I said, unsure of what to make of his markings, but they weren't unsure of his markings. They're like, oh, he has plant markings. Like, what does that mean? Like, he's part plant, part human. They figured it out. They weren't unsure.
Sure. So I think at this part, at the very beginning, they were celebrating their first birthday.
Yeah,
And they
their
look old.
first birthday. Yeah, and they look like they're 11.
That automatically tells us some stuff. Like, were they born in that age? Like the way that they look when they're kids? Were they born a baby and they just grow really fast? Still don't know. Don't know how that
Probably
works.
the second one.
Yeah.
I would guess.
We find out that Vash was the one that gave Nye the program access code to do something. For something to happen. Still don't know exactly what happens. I don't know if we are. Like maybe in this next flashback that we get in episode 9, it'll let us know. But we find out as well that plants can give birth, in that there are only 2 independents that I don't know. There are 2 independents that the plant just makes, but they can give birth. So were they birthed by the plants, or were they independents? Like,
I think the first one.
So they find out plants can give birth. Okay, cool. Does that make other plants? Or was them giving birth only happened twice, and that's Vash and Nye?
Maybe it's like at some point in the like Rem was maybe like a human that was appointed to be the caretaker of any independents that show up from the program. Or was she? I don't think she was an independent. I think they say that she's a human.
They say that there's only 2 independents that happened, and I'm assuming that's Vash and Nye.
Yes.
So do plants just give birth to humans just normally?
Not normally. And
still don't know the full
it's like a, because their genetic makeup is mostly human. I don't know. They give us some information, and it's us trying to interpret what they said. Because I'm pretty sure by the end of it we're gonna know. But I just want to see where we're at, because that was kind of confusing for me as well. I was just like, okay, so I was like,
I don't know.
I think I was definitely just rolling with it.
Okay, cool.
I was just rolling with the punches.
I was like, all right, I know the 2 independents that you're talking about are these 2 guys. Okay,
exactly.
Cool. We meet Luida, who is the more nice human there, or I don't know if she's human either. Wait, are they human? They're human.
They're human.
They talk about them being human.
Yes.
Okay. We find out as well that Vash can't produce anything, unlike Nye, because apparently Nye can produce things.
Something. Maybe the knives, something. I guess. Millions.
They turn into knives. Yeah, sure. The what? That's why he's named. But we find out that Vash can talk to the plants, and they can hear them sing. Very cool moment when they give him his jacket that we see him, and it is bigger than what he is sized for.
Into it.
And I like that. I was like, that was a cool little thing, because I was like, how did he? But he does grow eventually into the Vash we know now. And they think that Vash betrayed the humans by just Nye saying the same thing that we've heard a million times already. And he overhears them and runs away. We don't know how he gets back either. There's a lot of like, we have to connect our own dots here.
We have to connect our own dots in like the last 10 minutes of this episode, 5-7 minutes.
The more that it happens, the more I don't like it, but I'm fine with it. Like, it's not like a annoying thing. It's just kind of like a because he goes off and leaves, and then we find him confronting something, and then he wakes up.
Yeah. And I'm giving like benefit of the doubt to the show that things might make sense in the next episode. It might do something to kind of connect those dots, and it's just for the fact that, you know, since we watch the 4 episodes, like hold and then come back and watch the next ones after we do the
Sure.
show here. That's why earlier in the Discord I was joking that like I was like I was
Yeah.
like what's his name after he got his memories back, because I
Yeah.
was like, I just want to watch the
Yeah.
next episodes. These
Mhm.
are I'm very bought in, but also like I want it to all come together so badly because I think the potential is just extreme for how satisfying some of the conclusionary reveals can be. But
And
again, I'm
because
also
this
bracing for it to drop the ball on that.
but because this anime is going so well and there's so many things that I like about it, I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt, and I'm sure that you are too, because it's like
Exactly.
they have everything going for it to be a great anime. Please stick the landing here in the last 4 episodes.
If anything, it's just really pretty to look at, man.
Sure, very
We haven't
pretty.
really talked about that a lot this episode, but it
Be-
continues to just look amazing.
Gorgeous, beautiful colors. You can tell that some of the spaces are lived in. It's giving the world um great context in all the different rooms that we've seen so far and up until episode 8, all the different ways that people live, all the different settings. So good, really love it. But again, them not showing how Wolfwood got out, come on, like show me something.
Yeah.
How he got back to the ship, come on, like it's
If
stacking up a little bit.
if there's one nitpick that I do have, it was how like Nash. Why do I keep doing that? Oh, who's Nash,
I mean,
man?
Nye and
Just
Vash,
think,
Nash.
yeah, that's what's happening. How he just kind of waltzes onto the sand steamer even though he's like a wanted
That's what
criminal.
I was saying. I was like,
That
nobody
was the
knew.
one thing for me that was just kind of a lot.
I was like, nobody knew who he was, and they're just at the top, just hanging out. This is the humanoid typhoon.
Because
We've
it's
been
supposed to
talking
be
about it.
like heading into July City, and there are like soldiers on there which seem
Yeah,
like they are probably July soldiers. So
and they're just
how
hanging out.
is he not
Nobody checked their
recognized by his
bags
like red coat and blonde spiky hair? I
and his
don't know.
arm. Nobody checked that
But
man's
again,
cross.
I'm along for the ride, so
Sure.
I'm willing to give the show the benefit of the doubt and stick with it at least until again the later reveals really either wrap it up in a satisfying way or not.
Mhm.
I'm ready for it to go either way.
Sure. Um, so they think Vash betrayed the humans. Nye maybe killed or wants to kill all the plants, and they meet in this past, in this what's it called, flashback here. What do you think? What do you think Nye's intention is here, or what are his motives? Either one, because they're all up
I
in the air for
really
me.
want him to be a villain that has some sort of a like he gives his reasoning like Pain from Naruto is a good example, like having a monologue where, you know, you can almost relate to or understand where the villain is coming from to a certain degree. But I really feel like Nye is gonna turn out to be the type of a villain that's doing evil for evil's sake. I mean,
Sure.
why did he blow up his home ship? That alone is just like, unless it turns out that like the plants are actually some sort of a biological such and such that can potentially doom human life to a certain degree. Unless it's something like that, and the people on the ship were actually like in some morally gray area, I don't know how Nye can be kind of like redeemed as a likable antagonist. I think he's
Mhm.
just at this point I'm bought in on a he's just supposed to be there to be dislikable and nothing more than that.
And that's fine. Normally, I am okay with that, but it would be so good if there was something like what you're
Yeah.
talking about. It's what takes a villain
I
to the next level.
I guess it could be seen that like he and Vash are two sides of a coin. Um and
maybe he was born.
given their powers,
Sure.
that's like the juxtaposition that they were both inclined to. Like, of course, if Vash was born with the power to heal flowers back to their health and talk to them and stuff, he's gonna probably have some more empathetic natures than somebody who's able to conjure up and then telekinetically control a bunch of daggers out of thin air to completely bring a town crumbling to dust.
Yeah, because maybe it could go along with like Nye feels like he needs to do this stuff, kind of going along with what has been happening in the past episodes. Like he feels like he needs to for some reason, whether he was born a certain way or something in his head or something like that, and or him taking note from somebody else, because we still don't know where the doctor really plays into all this. Maybe the doctor had convinced him of this stuff, possibly because I think that could be a misdirection of where the actual evil is lying. That the doctor has been taking all of these other superhumans together, and maybe he took a part of Nye for some reason, or somehow he got into his brain, and he was the one that
Ooh,
was actually pulling the strings on everybody.
that
Because
would
I,
be a reveal that I would enjoy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm just going off. I'm just making it up right now because of
Yeah,
going off what you're saying. How to make him still feel redeemable and good, and possibly ultimately at the end, it's the two brothers coming together to fight the doctor. Like that's perfect. That's a not perfect, but that's in a perfect timeline. That could be a story that they tell. Whatever story they do end up telling, I just want Nye to have a good reason, like you're saying, and not be just doing it because I want to be the only one and I
yeah.
want to just me and you, Vash. No, I almost said Nash like you. Just me and you, Vash. Just
Like the
come
whole
on, come to
concept
my
of like
side.
because we are these beings born of a higher nature, the humans are whatever.
Worthless.
They should not, the flowers should be, because like for a while I thought they were collecting the flowers that Nye was like the tainted don't deserve to have the blessings of the flowers, so we must remove them from the hands of the tainted ones. I thought it was like some sort of a like
Sure.
that type of a take. But then when we get the reveal of Nye in the flashback, he's surrounded by dead flowers. And are they dead just because Vash wasn't around to heal them all? Is he gonna like try to pin that and make that seem like it's Vash's fault? I don't know, maybe, but it
Like,
just, that was like, again, part of that reveal with all the dead flowers or plants, not flowers. I was just like, geez, that's after giving them like this sense of being.
mhm,
Uh, it was like kind of shocking.
yeah. Um, I did know, like, I did have a feeling that the plants came from wherever the two brothers came from.
Yes,
Um,
definitely.
so
Because the
I
ships, in the opening, they literally say like plant project on them.
Yeah, for sure. So I thought that he was trying to take them all for himself, that he didn't want anybody else to have this kind of power, whatever they did, because they were powering cities and he was going after them. I don't know what the reasoning is. Do the plants produce that stuff that the doctor uses to do experiments and make people superhuman? Possibly. I'm still waiting on that connection, but I really am hopeful that it is connected somehow in that way. Um, but yeah, I don't know. What do you what do you hope for? What do you hope for in the last four?
Again, yeah, I just want to see some of these open-ended questions to kind of get wrapped up. I want some more reveals that recontextualize things that we've already seen. I want Nye to be made a redeemable antagonist to some degree before he uh has to, you know, be put down or be saved, however it is that the story ends up winding up.
Mhm.
Um I I struggle between whether or not I'd want to see Vash have to fight against his own ordeals, kind of like how Nicholas had to,
Hmm.
because sometimes you can't save everyone.
No.
Um, but he really keeps pushing this concept that he's going to save everyone, and at least so far, the only real tax we've seen him take is that his arm got a little busted. But I
How did he
want
get his arm?
how did he get his arm? But I want to see something.
How did
Yeah,
he
I
get
want to
so good at
see
shooting?
his good nature be the reason why he is almost defeated, so to speak.
Sure. That would be good storytelling for sure. Either way, we are going to be watching the last 4 episodes of Trigun Stampede, and we'll be talking about it next Wednesday here on the Twitch channel and watching it. If you want to watch it later, it's on Spotify and my YouTube channel. But I'm super excited because we're going to be finishing the season and then we're going to rate it. So we're going to put it on the anime list here and then picking a brand new anime from the anime chest 500 bits during the live stream gets you a new anime added. You can name us an anime and we'll add it there. If you want to see all the ones we've already done, it's all on season 1. Go back and look at all of them. But these are the ones that we'll be picking from for next week. Matt, when you are not talking to plants, where can they find you?
You can find me on my Twitch at Matt_Galley, or follow me on my socials. Just add an ITS at the front at it's Matt_Galley. When we're not here jumping off the sand steamer, where can the people find you?
At JulesTheHuman on all social media, at JulesTheHuman on YouTube, on X, on Instagram. Subscribe to the YouTube channel to watch videos of these every week. We put them up on YouTube later on, and then on Spotify. You can watch this podcast on Spotify. Just look up the Jules and Matt Anime Hour. You can give us a 5-star review if you want. You can join the Discord. Links all down there in the chat, in the description of the video. Go check it out. Go talk to us. And there will be a place for you if you've been following along and if you're watching the anime along with us. There will be a place for you to vote. So you can vote on where we put the anime. Watch the last 4 episodes. You can vote. I'll put it in the Discord. I'll put it probably on socials or something like that. Go and vote for where you rate the anime Trigun Stampede, and we'll put those up and we'll talk about that next week. So that's the end of the episode, and we'll see you next week. Watch Trigun episode 9 through 12. See you then.
Bye.
Bye.